My name is Harry Knox. I'm the director of the Religion and Faith program at the Human Rights Campaign. The Human Rights Campaign is the largest, but by no means the only advocacy organization working on behalf of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender people here in Washington. We're grateful for your interest in the American Prayer Hour, a national series of prayer vigils calling for what we believe God desires: peace among God's beloved people, an end to poverty, understanding and care for all our neighbors, regardless of skin color, ethnicity, faith, tradition, or class, and justice for God's lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender neighbors. They're God's children. They're not God's neighbors. Yeah. For too long, the American people have been in the dark about a right-wing Christian organization called the Fellowship Foundation, but more commonly known in Washington as the Family. The Family finances and gives technical support and training to political and faith leaders around the globe with the goal of spreading homophobia and heterosexism around the world. We have seen the fetid fruits of the Family's labors in recent weeks as its friends in the Ugandan parliament have sponsored legislation that would make homosexuality a crime punishable by death in some instances and by life imprisonment in virtually all others. Moreover, the law would make criminals of friends, family members, and neighbors of LGBT people who failed or refused to turn LGBT folk in to the authorities. We have seen this before in history. Their justification for such barbarism and the totalitarian control it would require is that Jesus wants them to wipe out homosexuals. This group of distinguished faith leaders is gathered today to make very clear that nothing could be further from the truth. Each year, the National Prayer Breakfast brings the international supporters of the Family to Washington to rub elbows with many of the most powerful people on the planet, including members of Congress and often the President of the United States. Indeed, President Obama will speak at this year's National Prayer Breakfast, which will take place at the Washington Hilton this coming Thursday, February 4th at 8:30 a.m. Unfortunately, more than prayers are offered up at the National Prayer Breakfast. We now widely know in this country, due to the investigative journalism of Jeff Sharlet, author of The Family, The Secret Fundamentalism at the Heart of American Power, that when the breakfast is over, the wheeling and dealing begins. Many participants remain in the city for training events on how to manifest theocratic control of both business and government. Financial support for international projects flows from the National Prayer Breakfast, now known to be the annual meeting of the shadowy, secretive Family. Tax documents from the Family show millions of dollars have gone into programs run by David Bahati, the Ugandan parliament member who wrote this anti-gay legislation I described. With that kind of influence, we call on the head of the Family, Doug Coe, to publicly speak out against the proposed anti-gay bill in Uganda. Likewise, our nation's public officials, religious leaders, and civil and human rights champions must speak with one clear voice to tell the world that the proposed execution of a group of people for no other reason than because of their sexuality is immoral, and it will not be tolerated or condoned through silence. Members of Congress and other elected officials attending this event cannot turn a blind eye to the obligation they have to speak out against such inhumane proposals as the legislation being proposed in Uganda. We call on the President of the United States to use the occasion of his speech to condemn homophobia and heterosexism, the proposed legislation in Uganda, and any further criminalization of homosexuality. Because the notion of a national prayer breakfast has become polluted with the vitriol spewed forth by the Family and its lieutenants, faith leaders and young people across America are organizing alternative prayer events in at least 11 cities that we know of next Thursday. More details about these events can be found at www.americanprayerhour.org. Together, we will lift our voices and our hearts in petition to God to be more fully present with us, to inspire and equip us to work for God's justice at the intersection of all of the issues of oppression and marginalization that divide God's human family one from another.